Hi guys. So, have you ever wondered how we got to a situation as Africans? I'm trying to really understand, like, from the beginning, what happened from way back, and I'm beginning to understand that there has been there was a time when Africa was actually leading in everything. I mean, we are, according to historians, we are the, what do I call it? Cradle of mankind. Definitely we all have. There was actually a scientist who said if we look back at our ancestors, like, we all have some kind of relations. We have cousins who are related to us. Like, if you go back like 100, how do I call it? Okay, let me not put it in words. That one I don't know. But he was saying we are the cradle of mankind. Africa was the cradle of mankind, and there has been a lot of evidences that show that Africa was the cradle of mankind. Anyway, it just goes ahead to show that we have been in places where I have a lot of things that I want to say at once. But yes, we are the cradle of mankind, and we were once at the top. And I feel like something happened along the way, and I'm trying to understand this whole thing, And welcome to my channel. It's the Royalty Show, hosted by Foy. Hi guys. And I'm just into all of these things about our history. I loved history when I was growing up, when I was in high school, and it was something good. But then I realized we are being taught things that do not make sense, and I feel like right now is the time that I understand why, because there's been a lot of the social media has come, and it's just such a pity that our leaders are trying to take it down, to take the what is it called, the freedom of social media, because for me it has helped me and others to learn a lot about our history, and I feel like that is how they are trying to take all of this information away from us. Okay, and I hope that we fight, that we have this freedom so that we can learn, because right now my history is like, it's not great, but I'm like, okay, now this is what I wanted to learn. I've learned a lot about Africa. I've learned a lot. I'm still learning, not a lot. It's just a tip of the iceberg, what I know, because I feel like we still don't have that information yet. It's still held somewhere, but one day history has a way of bringing itself, out there, even if it's hidden. Yeah. So anyway, moving forward, I want to talk about the Dark Ages and how it correlates to something that I really want Kenyans and actually the whole of Africa to see, especially. And okay, let me talk about Kenya, because right now we are stuck with this thing of tribalism, and I want people to understand something. As much as we are looking at tribalism right now, we are looking, right now the minds of a lot of Kenyans are in 2027 elections. Like right now, if you go to TZ, it's all about elections. We are in 2025. Today is Friday, October of 31st. And there's a lot of commotion going on. It's a war. I will call it a war is a war. For me, a war is a war. A lot of things are happening in Tanzania because of elections. We are now talking about elections in Kenya, elections that will happen in 2027. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I feel like after the elections, we will still continue campaigning, and there is no economic growth that will continue. And once we move a step ahead of economic growth, there will be something that is coming up. For example, tribalism. And then we're going to talk about it, and then boom, the campaigns are here. And there is never going to be a time that is going to come that we will be able to have economic growth. So anyway, my point is, as we look at, right now we are in 2025, we are looking at the elections in 2027. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but look at it this way. Be open-minded about this. When you are thinking about 2027, our colonizers, and I will say it's our, because, they are there and they are making plans to stay as our colonizers no matter what. 100 years before, not even 100. Okay, I'll speak about like 100 years back. That was in 1925. These people were in the verge of making rules that still govern us until today at 2025. You know, rules that were made in the 21st centuries are affecting us up to now in the 21st century. Rules in the 20th century, I will repeat again, rules that were made in the 20th century are still governing us up to until now in the 21st century. And the rules that are being made right now in the 21st century will govern our countries up to the 22nd century. I want you to get it in your heads. When we are planning about the 2027 elections, we are planning about the 2030 or 2030 blah blah blah, whatever. These neo-colonizers are they are planning about 2125. We are in 2025, 2025, right? So them, they are planning about 2125. Okay, and they are setting, like, it's like they are sitting down and they are setting up rules, and they're like, this is gonna happen. It's like something that will affect another thing. So in 2125 we should be thinking about that. We shouldn't be thinking about 2027. What is that at this age? I know elections are important, but you need to also understand that if these elections will bring us the changes that we need, these people, the way we know them, these politicians, these neo-colonizers, the way we know them, if it was something good for us, they wouldn't allow us to do it. If elections were meant to help us get to where we want economically, I wanted to say spiritually and emotionally, but yeah, even emotionally and mentally, and by this I mean, if elections were meant to help us use our resources well, have good educations, bring Africa to another standard. Right now we are a third world country. Countries like the Emirates are what are they called? Developing countries. And then countries like the United States, the Australias, the Europes, those are these things are really crossing my mind fast. They are developed countries. We are a third world country as Kenyans. We have the developing countries, and then we have developed countries. Now, if these elections, and the ones who are governing us are the developed countries, and we are slaves to the developing and the developed countries. Now, if this election, and by slavery, I mean we are being run, our countries are being run by developing and developed countries. Now, if these elections were meant to help us grab our freedom, minimize their governance, minimize the developing and developed countries' governances to the third world country, they would not, they won't let us. Meaning, I don't know if I'm confusing myself or I'm confused. Meaning, if these elections were meant to help us, these people would not allow elections to happen. Meaning, elections are not as important. Because let me ask you a question, and let's be really honest. Right now, there is Mr. Honorable Ruto, and you elected him. No one forced himself in there, right? Kenyans elected him. And you see the kind of things he is doing, from the RSF commanders coming to Kenya, and he's like, hey brother, have you seen what the RSFs are doing? Anyway, we elected this person, and now we want him out. Who will be the next person? Or maybe he's even going to get a 2-term because of how the Ukabila is going, how the tribalism is going right now. Okay, he's probably going to get a 2-term, considering everything that is happening, considering the lives of our brothers that we lost and the ones that are still in hospital. We need to talk about that. But people right now are like, yeah, it's the 2027 elections. We all know that even the next person who is going to sit there is going to be the same, a different person, but with the same mentality. he will still be a puppet. Let's just be honest. Who are we going to put there that will not be a so-called puppet? Do we have that plan? Do we have that person? Are we ready for an election that will actually change the course of our life as Kenyans? Kenya right now, we have like this Morima Hill that has a lot of minerals. And let's not talk about the eastern province of Kenya that has minerals left, right, and center. Let's not talk about the oil, because let's not even talk about the one in is it not Savo? Not Masai Mara. Taita. Let's not even talk about the minerals there, because if they are all combined, and the ones that we do not know of, because it's a lot. Those wildlife conservancies and everywhere, it's a lot of minerals. And if we combined all, and we're like, okay, we are done with the neos, let's just stand on our own. Let's just stand on our own. Do you know how much we have? And the soil, let's not even start talking about the soil that these people are trying to come and what is it called? They are trying to come and destroy it through the GMO products. Oh my God, it's just a whole lot of things that I want to talk about. But today I want us to focus on something that has really been bothering my mind, and it's the Dark Ages. And I was researching on it, not much. It's just I'm going to be general about it, and then you can go and research on your own. So the Dark Ages, when I was in school, I learned a little bit about the Dark Ages, but I didn't like it a lot. I'm sorry about the noise. I'm outside. I just remember it was the Dark Ages, but the modern historians say that it's not supposed to be called the Dark Age. It's I forgot the name, but it should only apply to the Dark European era, because it was their Dark Age. When people talk about the Dark Age, for me, and that's why I hated history in school. And right now, I feel like we need to change the history that our kids are being taught in school, because when I was learning about the Dark Ages, I used to think about Dark Africa, the Dark African continent. I feel like that is what we were being taught, if I'm not wrong. And I will think of, Africa was still developing. It was like in its baby stages. People were still wearing foreskin and stuff. But if you look at the Dark Age, which happened between the 4th and 5th century, if I'm not wrong, the 400 and something AD to 500 and something AD. To 700 and something AD. And this was a time when the Rome Empire was falling. And why was the Roman Empire falling? One, it's because they were being attacked by some Germans. I think the Vandals, the something, I didn't get it all. But they were being attacked by Germans, left, right, and center. Another thing is that their universities were failing, because, again, when there is war, a lot of things happen, a lot of destruction happens. So there was education was being limited. It was being burnt down and everything with these Germans, okay? Another thing is that their economy was failing, because there was they're being beaten left, right, and center. So meaning they are losing in wars and not getting slaves. So there were no slaves to do farm work in their plantations and everything, okay? And when that ended, the Dark Age ended. You need to understand that in the same period when Europe was in their Dark Ages, Africa was booming. We had the Ghana. There was a Ghanaian empire. I can't remember the name again, but you can go research. And it was also flourishing. It was like a golden age in Africa. Then there was the Akontu Empire in Ethiopia that was really thriving. It was like heading the whole of East Africa. It was like the goat of those days. And at the same time, that is the same time that the Roman Empire is failing, okay? And then there were areas like India, China, they were also growing their technology and stuff. And also areas like, I think the Middle East as well was also growing. You need to understand that the Dark Age was from 400s. I'm not going to be specific about the dates. 400s to around 700s or 800s. Then after a while, that's when they started coming. The Europeans started rebuilding. The Roman Empire started rebuilding itself. Okay, it started rebuilding itself. Now, moving forward, this was the 4th to 8th century. Moving forward, after the Ghanaian Empire came the Mansa Musa. I'm gonna say it's the Mansa Musa Empire. And if you don't know the story, I'm gonna do another story about the Mansa Musa, and it's a whole lot of stories. It's about this king who ruled the Mali Empire, and he was like, if you see him, you see Africa. You see him, you hear about him, you see Africa, you see the wealth. And it came a time when he was so wealthy, and he had a lot of students. They called them students who were like slaves to him. But if these students went to other European countries, they'd be like the formal people there. I don't know if you get it. It's like you're in Africa, you are like, working these formal jobs, but when you go to a place like Europe or America, you're like the CEOs of these big companies. You get, he had people like that in that century. Those were in the 12th to 13th century, if I'm not wrong. And one day he's like, oh, I want to visit for whatever reason. I'll do a story on it. And he wanted to visit the Middle East, the Gulf states and everything. And he went, and along the way he had a very huge caravan. I don't know, it took him like a whole year to do the whole journey. And he went, and everywhere he would go, he will buy. He used to trade with gold, because this person was rich. He used to trade with gold, and everywhere he went, he's like buying. And he got to a point when he was like, okay, my gold is like limited, not over, but it's limited, and I haven't gotten to my destination. So he started like trading for money. But every place he went, he will buy, and he will give out. And when he got to the Middle East, and I think it's that same when he got to Europe, and he started giving out his gold, and it was a lot of gold and a lot of, all of these things. He exposed Africa's what is it called? Africa's gems, he was the one who exposed, but you need to understand also. Okay, let me just finish with this one. He exposed Africa's gems, Africa's wealth to the Europeans. And one of the reasons that made them, I think Europeans were like, oh, this person is loaded, and where he comes from is more loaded. When he went there and started giving out the gold and doing all these trades, he actually sank the economy of the Europeans at that moment. Okay, but I don't want to say that he exposed the Africa's wealth, and that's why there was slave trade, because you need to understand that trans-Saharan slave trade started in the 7th and 8th century. So it was the 4th and the 5th century were for dark ages in the Europe. The 7th and 8th century was the beginning of slave trade in Africa, outside Africa, okay, where the most of the Gulf people, the Arabs, came and took our people to work to their countries. But when Mansa Musa came, it's like it lit a bulb in the Europeans' minds that this place there's a lot of things. And I feel like that's when they realized this place, we can go and actually get something from this place. And I feel like that is when they started having plans on how they can actually come and rule our continent, because it's the whole continent right now, let's just be honest, right? And I feel like that was like the awakening of the Europeans towards occupying Africa and all, because in the 15th century, 13th or 15th century. That is when the 13th century is when Mansa started Mansa's rule was, and sorry, the 15th century is when now the transatlantic, the slave trade now with the Europeans and everyone, now it started. Ilishika mtama, ni kushika mtama ama ni kushika mizizi. Yeah, that's when it started fully, and it was brutal. But now you need to understand this. When you look at these things, Rome started rebuilding itself, right? And I feel like Rome started rebuilding itself while Africa started going down. One of the reasons is because when the Romans started, my theory, when it started rebuilding and it saw the immense wealth that Africa has, and because people, when you're describing Mansa Musa and the people he was working with, doctors, everyone, like people who were learned, and these people saw these Africans and they are learned, and they can control us. And that thing of, oh my God, what if they come and, how we say, oh my God, what if aliens come from space and start controlling? We've seen these movies like Superman. There's that fear of the unknown, and I feel like that was what made them, and what actually motivated them to do what they did to Africans. Because if you think about what Africans went through, you will, it's disheartening. It's a dark age for our people. May their souls rest in peace. And I hope that even in this fight that we are fighting right now, because when we come down to where we are, we will see that things that happened in those centuries have actually affected us up to now. Because if you look at the slave trade, the 15th century, and it was just 20th century, that's when slavery stopped. And it hasn't stopped. It stopped in quotes, like, okay, we're not going to do it. We're just going to do a PR, and, you can say you are free, but you're not fully free. You get it, right? And the leaders will be like, yeah, you get it, yeah? It was just the other day. And what I will say to people is that we need to look at what is happening now. Right now, we have this green carbon credit theory. I'll call it a theory because it's not a theory. It's a narrative. Sorry, it's not a theory. It's a narrative, and it's working. And our leaders are like, okay. And it's so sad that we have elected these leaders, and that's why I want to tell this to Kenyans and Africans. Sometimes, as much as we are gonna blame the Rutos of this Africa, or the Suluhus of this Africa, we need to look at ourselves. One finger is pointing at them, but the four fingers are pointing back at us as citizens, as Africans. We are the people who are putting them there. Yes, some are going in, the hard way, but we can also take them out the hard way. That is what I know, because these people are selling us to the highest bidder for them. It's not working for us as citizens. The carbon credit theory, they're coming to our countries and saying we're going to take this land, we're going to plant blah blah blah, and before you know it, they own half of Kenya. Right now there is privatization of beautiful coastlines which can be used for, once we privatize that, and there is gold that we don't know, or the oils that we don't know how much we have in Kenya, it's going to be a very easy place where they can just move their products. We have the blue wave economy, which is, I don't know why it's together with the why it's so associated with mining, and yet we are not mining in the sea. Please just educate me on this, because I'm not getting it. Get me some info, because I'm not getting it, Yeah, so anyway, my point is, these things that we think that if, sometimes we're just like sometimes I try to ignore them, but it's in reality, it's going to affect us in years to come. It's going to, maybe not me, maybe my kids. They won't have a place to call their home. Right now, I saw Oparanya, this man called Oparanya. He's saying, oh, we want you guys to move into the affordable housing so that we can work on, you can stay, and then your farms can be used for farming. And I'm like, we have a lot of land. even if we give each and every one of our fellow Kenyans 1 acre, I think everyone will have an acre. Okay, that's my it's just theoretical, but it's the truth. We have a lot of land. The amount of land that we have cannot even be put towards. Another thing that I wanted to tell you guys is, have you ever thought of how Africans, we are living like we are in a camp? We are in a campsite. Oh my God. This is gonna be for part 2.